Good morning. My name is Reverend Emily Bruce. I'm the minister of this congregation. Welcome to First Parish in Kingston. It is so good to have you here. One quick announcement, just one today before we start. Silver Bells is happening next Saturday. Very excited. I know there's a big old insert in your order of service, so look at that. And in the newsletter this past Thursday, there was a link to a Sign Up Genius where you can sign up to volunteer, to make stuff. We hope everybody will contribute as best they are able and come on out next Saturday and buy stuff too. And Sunday, it'll be Saturday and Sunday. And as with all things, make sure you just read the newsletter every week. There's a lot of stuff in there. Everything I say is in the newsletter and more. So check that out every week on Thursdays. So now I invite you all to join me in taking a deep breath in and out. Get comfortable in your seat. Feel your back against the pew. Release your jaw, release your shoulders, release your hands in your lap, and just get comfortable and give yourself for the next hour the gift of rest and community and fellowship with all of us in worship. Welcome. Jane Ford will give us our opening words, and Annie Sanda is going to light our chalice.
Good morning. My name is Jane Ford, and I am your worship associate for this morning, and I'm delighted that we have one of our children lighting the chalice for us. As we begin our worship, we light our chalice to these words by the Reverend Katie Romano Griffin. Come, let us enter this space of hope and community. Come, let us enter this space with our sorrows, our joys, our passion and compassion. Come, let us enter this place with the stories of our ancestors, for their strength and wisdom beats in our hearts. Come into this space, present to the beloved companions who move beside us. Come into this space, mindful that together we are building a future for other generations. Come into this space and let us worship. And now our opening hymn, performed by the North River Brass Quintet, is Just a Closer Walk with Thee.
Thank you, and welcome to the North River Brass Quintet. Welcome. We're so excited to have you in worship today. So in a moment, we will be joining together to create an altar of remembrance. But first, I do have a sad announcement to share for the congregation. We received word that Peggy Sprague died on Monday from ovarian cancer. Some of you may remember her. She was a longtime member who moved to Vermont several years ago with her husband. And I'd like to ask that we all just hold a moment of silence for her memory now. Thank you.
Today, in this service, we are honoring All Souls Day, and it is a time when we remember those we have lost. Throughout our lives, we experience loss, whether it is a loved one who has died, a friend who has moved away, a pet who has been lost or died. Each person was offered a stone when you came into the sanctuary, and I invite you to pick up your stone now. If you did not get a stone when you came into the sanctuary, please raise your hand and Carmen will come around with a basket for you to take one. Many people brought pictures of loved ones who have died. If you have brought a picture, I invite you to also get it out now. In a few moments, we will build an altar together, honoring all the souls who make up our cloud of witnesses, those whose lives and whose love we carry with us.
There we go. Who else needs a stone? Did someone else? Lauren, did you raise your hand? You're good. Okay. Rich needs a stone. Okay. And then the front here, we need stones too. Can you? Yeah. Sorry, Carmen, we're really making you work for it this morning. So Barbara and Jane, and also Rich needs a stone, who's halfway back. All right, everyone else is, oh, nope, Bob needs a stone. Okay, are we all set? Okay, thank you, Carmen. We're gonna leave the basket here. So for some reason, you lose your stone in the next 5 minutes, you can pick up another one as you come forward. Okay. So now, I invite you to call to mind the person or people that you have loved and lost that may be coming up in your mind today. And I invite you to pull out your stone and feel it sitting in the palm of your hand. Feel its texture, its shape. Feel the weight of the stone you're holding, and let it represent the weight of emotions that arise for you when you think about those who have passed away. Sadness, gratitude, grief, anger, complexity, joy, confusion, peace, tenderness, and love. Whatever it is that you're carrying in your heart today when you think about those people, put all of that into the stone that you're holding in your hand. Maybe you find that the stone is too heavy or not heavy enough to contain all the emotions that you're carrying. And now, holding your stone, call to mind a memory, just one memory of a loved one. Let yourself rest into that memory, connecting to those that you have lost. If you'd like, you may close your eyes while you do this. And now, as you are moved, I invite you to say aloud the name of the person or the people that you're holding on your heart today. I'll offer the name Brooks and Jim, Emily and Margaret. If you feel called, say your names out loud or silently in your heart. Beloveds, we are surrounded by these names. We are surrounded by this cloud of witnesses and a community of hope and love that holds us in times of tenderness and loss. I'd now like to invite all of you to come forward, and we will co-create an altar of remembrance together. If you brought a picture or a memento of a loved one, you're invited to place it on the altar. You're also invited to bring up your stone and also place it on the altar, symbolic of the feelings and the memories that you're carrying with you today. If you didn't get a stone, the basket is right here. If you want to keep your stone, that's okay too. We're going to enjoy some wonderful music from the North River Brass Quintet, and I invite you, when you're ready, take your time and come up to the altar. In a moment of prayer. Spirit of eternal love, connecting us across death and time, memory and heartache, we bring to your altar of remembrance and love all those we have loved and lost. In times of grief, may we find comfort, and in times of peace, may we find joy and gratitude. In times of absence, may we feel their presence, and in times of sacred memory, may we know love. And may we, the living, carry on with these two truths of love and death, feeling this cloud of witnesses guiding and holding us always. Amen. I'd now like to invite up Kathy Kay, who will be singing our children off out the door. Yeah, you want to sing from there? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Okay, go for it. Friends, will you please join me in prayer? Spirit of life and love, grant us strength, wisdom, and thanksgiving. Give us strength to bear the daily sorrows and concerns that we face. Help us to speak of our lives so that each day yet to come we find more compassion, more understanding, more of the loving kindness that fills our world with joy and laughter. Give us the wisdom to remember to cherish one another so that we use our lives to heal instead of forget, and lead ourselves to the possibility of forgiveness instead of defiance. Help us to be mindful to give thanks for all of our ancestors, our saints, our beloved departed. May the memories of these clouds of witnesses live on in the great spirit of life that surrounds us. May it be so. Amen. Let us now take a moment of stillness together.
When we give, we say yes to something we value. In this congregation, we take up an offering each week to say yes to the values of our UU faith and yes to this beloved community. Together, we use these gifts to serve with ever greater love. You are now invited to give as you are able, and the offering will now be received. Our offering hymn is the St. Louis Blues by the North River Brass Quintet. This morning's reading is a eulogy from a physicist by Aaron Freeman. You want a physicist to speak at your funeral. You want that physicist to talk to your grieving family about the conservation of energy so that they will understand that your energy hasn't died. You want the physicist to remind you about the first law of thermodynamics, that no energy gets created in the universe and none is destroyed. You want your friends and family to know that all your energy, every vibration, every BTU of heat, every wave of particle that was you remains with them in this world. You want the physicist to tell everyone that amid energies of the cosmos, you gave as good as you got. And at one point, you would hope that the physicist would step down from the pulpit, walk to your broken-hearted family and friends there in the pew, and tell them that all the photons that ever bounced off their faces, all the particles whose paths were interrupted by their smiles, by the touch of their hair, hundreds of trillions of particles have raced off like children, their ways forever changed. And as everyone rocks in the arms of loved ones, may the physicist let them know that all the photons that bounced from them were gathered in the particle detectors that are your eyes, that those photons created within you constellations of electromagnetically charged neurons whose energy will go on forever. And the physicist will remind the congregation of how much of all your energy is given off as heat. There may be a few fanning themselves with their programs as he says it, and he will tell them that the warmth that flowed through you in life is still here, still part of all that we are, even as we who mourn continue the heat of our own lives. You can hope your family will examine the evidence and satisfy themselves that the science is sound, and they'll be comforted to know your energy is still around. According to the law of conservation of energy, not a bit of you is gone. You're just less orderly.
Thank you, Jane, for that reading. It's not often we hear the word physicist so much in a church service, but I so love the ideas that that reading expresses. It gives me a whole new definition of immortality that I can really embrace. So I imagine those that I love who have died are not living on some cloud with wings and a harp, but they're here. They're with us. They're in and around us. Their energy is in the very air that we breathe forever. I will admit it's kind of hard for my non-science brain to fully wrap my head around the science of everything Jane just said, but I trust scientists, so I'm willing to believe that which I don't fully understand. It brings me comfort and it sort of makes sense. And as we have been gathering and holding the memories of our loved and lost this morning, I hope that reading brought you a little bit of comfort and made a little bit of sense too. I always think about my cousin Brooks this time of the year, on or around All Souls Sunday. That's his picture right there down front on the left. Brooks died 25 years ago, the summer before my senior year of college. He was my mother's sister's son, and he was 10 months younger than me. From a very young age, as soon as he started learning how to talk, he pronounced my name Emily, with obviously a very thick Southern accent. I'm from Louisiana, for those of you who don't know that. So we all had Southern accents. And I've had a lot of family nicknames in my life, but he was the only one who called me Emily. And every once in a while now, someone in my family will call me Emily, and it brings his memory back full force. Until I was 10, I lived about a 20-minute drive away from my cousins, and we all got together a lot, especially in the summertime. Because Brooks and I were the youngest of the bunch, it was often him and me against the older siblings. He had an older sister, and I have two older brothers. We were treated like the babies of the family, which we were, but that often meant that the older kids got to go off and do stuff that we didn't get to do. So Brooks and I would go upstairs to my aunt's huge playroom on the second floor of her house, and we would just spend hours up there playing together, just the two of us. Brooks was very, very creative. He loved to draw. When we were teenagers, I remember he showed me some of his artwork. He liked to draw comic book characters, and he was really talented. I remember thinking that he could actually go somewhere with that drawing of his. He also played the drums, and one of my favorite memories of him is when he stepped in to play with the band at his older sister's wedding. That was one of my last happy memories of him. He was, I think, about 17 at the time, and I remember watching him play and just watching this almost inexpressible joy on his face as he played with a bunch of older guys in some kind of 80s cover band. I don't remember what song they were playing, but he was bliss in action. Who knows what he would have done if he had lived. Brooks died by suicide after a long struggle with learning disabilities and drug addiction. Needless to say, the shock of it rocked our family, and to this day, I don't know that we've ever really fully gotten over it. But that's the thing about loss. You don't get over it, do you? You learn to live with it, and each day the grief hopefully gets a little less heavy to bear. I have that picture of Brooks hanging in my house, and even though he died 25 years ago, he still has such a presence in my heart and in my mind. When I pass that photo on the stairs, I will often say hello to him. I talk to him sometimes out loud. Yeah, I know what it sounds like talking out loud to a picture in my house, but that's okay. Sometimes out loud, sometimes just in my head. I tell him what's going on with our family. I tell him who said what, who did what, who's getting married, sometimes divorced, who had a baby. I tell him about my nieces and my nephews, those family members that he never got a chance to meet. When my Uncle Jim, who was Brooks's father, died a few years ago, I said, "Oh, good. Uncle Jim will keep you company now." I want to talk to him about all of these things because he's still part of the family. And not talking to him feels weird. Somehow it feels wrong. Brooks shows up sometimes in my dreams too. It's a variation on the same kind of dream. I see him somewhere unexpectedly. The last time I had this dream, it was in a mall of all places. And I run up to him and I hug him and I cry and I laugh and I'm so happy to see him again. And he laughs and he smiles. And I always ask him the same variation, a variation on the same question: "Where have you been? We've missed you so much." His answer is always some version of, "I'm here. I've been here the whole time." And he has. He's been here the whole time. Those we have loved and lost continue to live on in our hearts and our memories. I am sure that I'm not the only one who has talked to those who have died. How many times have you talked to or just thought about telling a beloved that you have lost about what is happening in your life or what's happening in the world? Certainly in the last couple of years, I've imagined trying to explain the pandemic to my late grandmothers. How many of us have imagined what that person might say to us about decisions we've made in our life, especially decisions they might disagree with? Have you actually had an argument with someone you've loved and lost? I know I have. I have with my grandmother because I know that she would love the fact to know that I'm a minister, but we definitely would not agree on theology. Nanny, that's what I called her, my mother's mother, was a devout Southern Baptist. And she died in 2007, a few years before I found the UU Church, which led to my calling to ministry. Perhaps you feel that the ones you have loved and lost are watching over you. I feel that sometimes. I sometimes feel Nanny is speaking to me, sending me messages, offering her opinions unasked for, even from the great beyond. And if anybody could figure out how to do that, it would be her. The UU minister, Leslie Takahashi, says about immortality, the more that they are remembered, they are more than remembered, they are memory itself. For what we love lives on in the ways our beloved dead accompany us through our life. Their words and wisdom, our guide, their humor, our relief, their restless concern for the world, our charge. Through this, we know immortality. When I think about losing Brooks, I'm always sad. The same is true with Nanny and all the other beloveds I've said goodbye to in my life. I think about all that they've missed and all we've missed experiencing together. And yet, if I think of all of their energy existing in the air around me, and if I can conjure them in my mind and in my dreams, have I truly lost them? All of our beloveds, our ancestors, our cloud of witnesses can still be brought alive with our minds and our hearts whenever we think of them. The force of their lives and the love they offered us is that strong. It lives on past their time here on earth. And if that's not immortality, what is? As our reading said, all their energy, every vibration, every BTU of heat, every wave of every particle that was them remains with you in this world. And when you think of all your ancestors, all your saints, all the beloved dead who have been called from this existence into a new form of energy, we are not living without them at all. They are everywhere. We may not be able to see them or touch them or hold them, but they are with us all the same. And that, my friends, is a wonderful blessing. May it be so. Amen. We will now enjoy our closing hymn, When the Saints Go Marching In, performed by the North River Brass Quintet. Thank you, North River Brass Quintet. Friends, as you prepare to leave this space and go out into the world, know that your cloud of witnesses always, always goes with you. And together with our hands and our hearts and our heads, may we continue to bless this world. Go in peace. Amen.